What's up, guys? How we doing? Busy day. Lots of news. Philly's not looking so great. Some strange stuff as well. But Fanny, yes, I appreciate that. Make sure to smash the like button on your way in. Let me try to mute this here real quick. This is a little bit distracting. There we go. But what's up? How's everybody doing? It's a little Tuesday night hangout. Been a little bit since we got together. So I had to, whether it is, and it feels like maybe a repeat from a week ago, but if it's a therapy session of sorts, talk through what the Eagles are doing, what they're not doing. Howie Roseman, Frank from Philly, I see all the venting. That is totally understandable, and that's kind of why this thing's set up, honestly. I mean, hopefully we get some of these that it's a celebration, a celebratory one, but it feels like we have not had that since, I know we've won 2 games, but it was kind of after week 1 where it's like, all right, hey, maybe this actually happens, but we'll see. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. CZ Leader, Jeremy, Frank from Philly, David, 1917, M. Ralph, Noah, saying you're never this early. Well, there you go. I'm roughly on time. I was a little bit late, but not too bad. Joshua, Robert Alessandrini, what's up? Jack, Ace Boogie, Hunter Gonzo. I don't understand never playing white. Yeah, I don't either. We'll get into that, I'm sure. Michael, John M., what's up? Tracy Ann, Go Birds. Fitness Warrior, Andrew, Bad Gamer, how's it going? It's going well. It's a lot. It's been a busy day, so I'm a little bit tired, and we had a rough, semi-rough. Shout out to my wife. She's the true MVP, but just sleep schedule with the 8-month-old and how that's going. But overall, very blessed, kind of at odds of just what's going on with the Eagles news, but, it's still very blessed. Quan, actually, Jerry, let me get that one first. Appreciate that. The 2 bomb, let's go. Jerry with the what's up, let's run it. Let's run it. Heck yeah. How about that? 48 Wave, Josh, what's up, my guy? Where's the other one? David, we did not win the CrossFit competition, although it's not done yet. So technically there's a chance. I highly doubt that it happens. I'll just say that. But there's a chance. Yeah, there's one more workout tomorrow. So it's kind of like a 3-day event, and then they score everything. So sitting in 4th place right now, I don't know that it's possible. But still, fun competition. Doing it with my brother. Had a good time. John M., let's go. Appreciate the 5 Philly Special Show memberships. Heck yeah. Quan's got one. Charles, 63 Mortis, ABM Swag, and Irvin Henschel. Hopefully I said that name correctly, but heck yeah. There you go. All right, I got to get to, real quickly, obviously, the shout-out to the official sponsor of the show, as always, Underdog. Appreciate them. Appreciate everything they've offered for the channel. Lots of giveaways, everything there that they provide. But if you've not checked out Underdog, and it is available to you depending on where you're at, obviously not yet for Pennsylvania, but they are working on that. But you pick at least 2 picks. You try to win. They have several other options, but the Pick'em is probably my favorite, available in 33 states so far, and hopefully more to come. But as far as what this past weekend did, that was we had honestly not too bad of a weekend for the Underdog picks. We'll just say that. For the plays themselves, I shared these on, I think, all of my socials. So if you're following on any of them, I try to post them on YouTube. But it's a little bit harder, but showed all of the picks here. And we had I think a 3 for 3, if I'm not mistaken, at least for the early slate of Sunday games. So not too bad. Just use code Philly Special whenever you sign up. And there's really not a better time, quite honestly, because it is Boosttober. I think that's the official term for it right now, but there's literally a promo every single day. So whether it's a free pick, it's a profit boost, which is what we used on Sunday, got 31% boost on the profits. They can discount picks as well as other multipliers, and then even pairing those with others. So make sure you get in on that. Use the, like I say, code Philly Special, or just scan the QR code right up there and get you in on the action. Again, those in Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Jersey, several others. Not available yet, but soon to come. So appreciate Underdog because they are one of the many reasons for lots of the giveaways, and shout out to John and Will, who got the Isaiah Rodgers helmet. As everybody can see, it's no longer here. It's gone. We've replaced it, though. That is a signed Saquon Barkley Kelly Green helmet. So, as always, you guys know, that will probably end up being given away at some point. But we got a ways to go, so we'll temper expectations on that. But, I started looking at it. I'm like, man, it's bare back there. I got to get something to replace it. So, yeah, that's the Saquon. The signed Saquon. But, yeah, we've got a lot of different stuff to get into. I know, I'm seeing the comments for the Phillies. A little disappointing. But as far as recent news, I mean, I guess we might as well. Thomas and I had hopped on the live whenever it first happened, so you may or may not have already seen that one. But just initial thoughts and takeaways from everybody. And I'm curious again because this is what it is. It's a Q&A, hangout, therapy session, and whatever else we want to. But the biggest news as far as the Eagles today was that the news from Devin White, or about Devin White. The Eagles releasing former Pro Bowl linebacker Devin White, 26-year-old, not played a game this season, didn't play a single snap, as we know, and moving on. Now, the only consolation is that apparently there's, let's see, I think I've got the other tweet here. Maybe you can, one second, I'll find the actual. For those that are just joining or not fully aware, Zach Berman, I think, was the first one that shared it. So let me get Zach's tweet so that I can not only attribute, but make sure that we're getting this correctly. Here we go. I think this is the one. Yes, okay. So Zach Berman, that was his tweet there. He says the Eagles released White. White wanted to play. Obviously, we kind of knew that, but it wasn't going to happen in Philly. Philly barring injuries, and even then, I'm kind of questioning if it was going to happen because we saw not great play. I mean, he felt like he could have been able to do that. Regardless, was not going to happen. But Devin White agreed to terms that would allow him for financial relief, allow for financial relief for the Eagles, according to a league source, in order to be a free agent. He's now open to sign anywhere. Had the Eagles waited a few more weeks, then he'd have been subject to waivers and would not get to pick his destination. So, helps out Devin White somewhat. Helps out the Eagles somewhat. Still very strange situation. I know that he tweeted during the game, probably not the best look, sure. Was it that ultimately tipped the scales and said, okay, you know what, we need to move on from him? Or did they just really not think that they could actually get anything out of him? I don't know, but as Thomas and I were saying previously on the live, whenever we were initially talking about it, it's like Nakobe Dean was not firing on all cylinders. He was not, 100% in terms of what you would want from a linebacker, from a starting linebacker. So the fact that you didn't get to see him for a single snap, I mean, yeah, that's very, very odd. Not the best look overall. Okay, there you go, John. I appreciate that too. Yes, for those that are wondering, Cinda will receive the helmet. I appreciate that, John. Thank you. It's pretty sweet. It is pretty sick, and obviously seeing it in person, you can see that and know that. But the one of one from the man himself, Isaiah Rodgers, as I shared it with him as well. So he retweeted it from the initial posting and then sharing the other post. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, he hangs out every once in a while on the streams. It'd be awesome if he came on, but I know that he said that he was kind of focused, as all the players should be. I totally understand. So I'm not gonna badger or anything like that. But one of these days we'll get Zay back on, and I'm sure that he's been hanging out on other streams as well. So appreciate that, though. That does mean a lot. Jeremy with a 5 bomb. Appreciate that. Jeremy said, I really want to know what's going on in the locker room, the entire White situation, Slay burning CJ, GJ on the pod. Where is the real leadership? Yeah, that's we only get glimpses, so it's hard to fully make make something of the glimpses or the minor details that we get, but there's enough. Yeah, I think most everyone, there's a few, but most everyone's on the same boat of, okay, hey, locker room wise, feels like it could be a little bit better. Does winning cure all? Yeah, kind of, it does, but there's still issues, and we talked about this back whenever, the Slay thing, and even some of the Devin White, like the vast majority, you're still going to have an issue with it. It's just not as big of an issue and doesn't make as big of a deal or big news. But yeah, you need different leadership. You need better leadership. Guys to own up to the C on their chest, especially for the ones that are the captains, right? And even if they're not, if they've been in the league long enough, like Devin White, despite, age-wise, 26, but been in the league more than long enough to know, yeah, maybe I don't retweet that tweet. Maybe I don't do something for the opposite team, even though they were my former one. Is it the grass is always greener? Is it just a little bit bitter? Was it a complete accident? Yet you have to, multiple steps to retweet something like that. I don't know. And then double down on it, say, I just meant to heart it. It's like, okay, well, they were still trying to or going to heart that tweet. I don't know. It's not a good look. I talked about this a ton, on the last live stream. It's you want to see different leadership from your guys, but we knew that it'd be a little bit different. Naturally, losing a Fletcher Cox, losing a Jason Kelsey. It's just I don't think that I envision it to this extent so far. However, if you can come out of the bye week, whether it was a regroup and it was a team meeting type of thing of saying, hey guys, we got to lock in, or it was a coaches led or a combined joint effort or whatever it was, changes needed to be made. They talked about changes, but we're 3 weeks beyond, really more than that because we go back to last season, but we're beyond talk. We're beyond empty promises and saying, oh, we're going to change things. Oh, it'll be different. Hey, we're going to modify. The offense will be better. It'll be clicking. It'll be firing. The defense, same thing. We're seeing the exact same, if not maybe slight variances, but basically the exact same thing. It's a Fangio defense. We got the guy to be the guy. We got the godfather of the defense to be the guy. And so far, we've not seen that. Now, there's a reason to be hopeful. And shout out to Anthony DeBona for the initial info in the article on, I think 5 reasons to be optimistic, which I included the link in my previous video to Anthony's articles there. But Fangio has a history. If we think back to last season with Miami was terrible as a defense to start out. Like the first 4 weeks, Miami was atrocious. And I looked at the article a while ago, so not exactly on the numbers, but it was like 29 points per game average allowed, 28, 29, and like 385 yards allowed for the defense, for Miami defense. First 4 games, not great. After that, the remaining 13 weeks, they allowed 20 points, just over 20 points per game, and like 300 yards total. So that's a significant decrease in the right direction. If we could see that, that'd be great. Overall, right now, the defense is allowing, 24 points per game and like 350, 360 for the Eagles. So, I don't know. Ultimately, yes, it could get so much better. But there's a track record and history of, if you look at last year, the Fangio type of defenses, the Fangio disciples, the vast majority continued to decline throughout the season. And Fangio was the one outlier of his own system, so to speak, but he changed some things up that actually went in the right direction. So I'm not sitting here, though, saying like, I want to completely sell that to you and I'm buying it as well. There's just some reason, maybe perhaps for some optimism. I think that they have enough guys on the roster to hold serve, so to speak. We're not expecting the defense to win anything for us. At least I'm not. We did see it against the Saints. Yes, they have the capability, one-off scenarios, but the by and large, the next 13 weeks, the offense is the one to do that. The defense just needs to hold serve and be good enough. I think that Fangio and the group can do it. It remains to be seen. We got to see it week in and week out, but I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment. I just sign back up for it every single week. I don't know. The main reason for optimism, though, still is yes, that can happen for the defense, but you keep going to the offense and say, look, A.J. Brown coming back, Devontae Smith coming back, Lane Johnson coming back. Does Jalen Hurts start clicking? Does he start firing all cylinders? Does he start figuring out this offensive system? And or is it Nick Sirianni backing off enough to say, Kellen, you got it. We're not going to confuse Jalen. We'll be better. And he's going to have all the weapons at his disposal. I mean, he's had issues. Not going to lie. I talked about a video recently. I don't know that I'm ready to say that he regressed. I know that got some back and forth and some disagreements. That's totally fine. I know that the tape shows that there's a lot of elements where He's missing it. He's slow to read. He's slow to react. He's not quick throws, not quick timing. But we also didn't really hear as much of that throughout training camp. I know that he's not getting pressure and everything else, but it seems like it's a little bit of a different offense, and that's probably because the game changes when you get behind and you have to start using different plays, or you kind of throw one element of the playbook out of the window. You go one-dimensional, maybe less motion, and you don't have your guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So I get all of the elements within that, but I'm still hopeful that let me see Jalen. I'm not going to judge him yet and say it is a full-blown regression and we should burn the ships or we should be even concerned until I need at least one game. Like Sirianni doesn't have the luxury of one game. He's got to win and win now or he's being fired if we lose to Cleveland. But for Jalen, I need to see a couple games. I got to at least give him that because he's not had the full core group who he was supposed to have with Kellen Moore's system, enough of a time to shake off rust, all of those things combined for me to go, well, okay, yeah, there's absolutely no excuses. He had all the elements that he could, and he's still turning the ball over, and he's still slow with his decision-making. He's not running this offense efficiently and all these other things. So definitely need to see it in the Cleveland game, but I feel like for Jalen, it's at least a couple. We can get into Sirianni as well, but that's the initial. I just had several thoughts coming right off the bat that I was at least going to share. But let me make sure and get to some of these comments as well because I don't want to just totally hog it. Again, this is a venting session for me just as much as for everybody else, but just sharing the thoughts of where we're at. What with the 5 bomb? Let's go. Says, I believe we're going to win regardless, but I have this weird feeling our defense is going to have Deshaun Watson looking like his prime. I hope I'm wrong. Man, bro, I hope you're wrong. I really hope that you're wrong too. I said, bro, I'm assuming. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, but I hope that you are wrong because Deshaun Watson is the definition of terrible, the definition of atrocious. There's not even really an adjective to describe how poor Deshaun Watson is and has been. If he is the Deshaun Watson of old and actually lighting us up, then yeah, we've got some significant issues. I mean, I talked about it in the video that I dropped today, but if he is averaging, I believe it's 4.8 yards per attempt so far. That is historically bad. John M., yes. Deshaun equals cooked. That may be the best one. He's completely done. Fanny Watson is an easy sack. Should be no reason why we shouldn't get home. Absolutely. 4.8 yards per attempt. Not throwing the ball downfield, not pushing the ball down the field. Now, we could make the argument, oh, hey, well, if the Eagles are not going to play press coverage and we're going to just back off, he could have quick, easy throws. So it might make life a little bit easier on him. But he's getting sacked at a historical rate. He's on pace to blow past David Carr's record, which the record is 76 sacks in a season. Deshaun Watson's on pace for 88. He's on pace to blow past it by 12 sacks. Now, I guess maybe the extra game helps a little bit. But still, 88 sacks. And then yardage-wise, he's going to set the record completely and say Randall Cunningham, I think it was 489 is what I said in the video. I'd have to go back and look at the stats, something like that. But he's on pace for like 530 yards lost based off his sacks. So, we temper it a little bit with the on-pace numbers, but still, you see the eye test of Deshaun Watson. Jay, I appreciate that. I'm glad you liked it. The definition of terrible. That's what Deshaun Watson is. We see it with the eye test. That is Deshaun Watson. So, please, Cleveland, play Deshaun Watson. But also, defense, take advantage. This is one of those games that if we walk away from this and we're like, man, the defense only got 1 sack. The defense got no sacks, but, the defense got 1 sack. Then I'm going to be sitting here, and I think we all will be, of going, yeah, it's panic time. We're going to be significantly not only upset, but panicked, I would say, for sure. And I was looking at the stat leaders, too, to try to pull this up officially and get you the QB ratings because, again, there's not a worse quarterback in the league. There's really not. And let me see if I can share. I think I've got this figured out now. Let's see. There go. I messed it up earlier, but okay, we're good. All right, screen share here just to, make it official. Everybody can easily look this up, but so that you're not thinking I'm lying to you here. There he is. There he is. There's Mr. Terrible himself. There is Deshaun Watson. down there at the very bottom. If you had any questions about who the worst quarterback in the league so far this year, there's lots of other metrics, sure, but like QB rating-wise, he is the absolute worst. 21.0. Will Levis himself. I mean, I'm trying to throw a turnover on every throw. Levis is above Deshaun Watson. So he's not had great blocking. He's not had very good decision-making. He's trying to get sacked. He's asking you to sack him. If the Eagles cannot come out and take advantage of that, then again, yes, we are in serious concern. And if Deshaun Watson looks anything like his prime of the old Deshaun Watson, then we have our answer, I think, of this defense, of where this team is headed, our capability to win the division. Yeah. We'll see. Appreciate the super chat, though. I just think I will be shocked, and I know I've said this a couple times, and I'm sure we all have been there, but like that is one of those that if we don't see an Eagles win, we're all going to be shocked, and there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for not taking advantage of a mismatch like that and how poor that they've played. All right, I'm going to random Eagles fan, the massage man himself. Oh, man. Okay. That's so this is what happens, too, whenever I end up getting carried away as well. We're going through Jarky Beef. Yes, AJ and Devontae are confirmed back, I believe. I saw a couple different reports, but I believe I've seen it from 2 or 3 others at this point, so I believe it's confirmed. Lane Johnson also, John Clark. I can't remember all of the reports for A.J. Brown and Devontae. I know James Palmer, not Jesse. I said Jesse on the video. I don't know why I was thinking Jesse Palmer. That's weird. But James Palmer for the A.J. and Devontae. But then I saw a couple others too. Let's see. We got, oh yeah, John, bring Salah over here to pep talk on, or pep talk Bryce Huff. Whatever works. I mean, yeah, if we want to hire him as a consultant, if he's willing to. Feels like he'll end up as the 49ers defensive coordinator. I don't know about you. If I had to bet right now, feels like Robert Saleh will end up as the defensive coordinator of the 49ers next season. Like that's where I would go with. We'll see though. Team Grim. I got to ask Josh, if we win dominant fashion, will the media be like, "Oh, that's just the Browns"? Probably. Yeah. The national media for sure. It won't matter. If we blow out the Browns, not a big deal. Should have beat them. Should have blown them out. You know, Commanders did it. Dallas did it. Initially, to start the season, the thought was, and I was kind of there too, I was like, man, I thought Cleveland would play a close game. I thought they might even win. And we saw what did not happen. Yet the Commanders blew them out. The Giants even won. But I would be somewhere in the middle of that. Like, I think that there's a reason to give some praise, sure, if you go and beat the Browns. But if it's not a blowout, then we've got just okay, cool, you won. Like let's not get hung up on it. Now, if it's a nail biter and way too many issues with it, then sure. But if it's like somewhere in between, it was like, yeah, the result was never in doubt. It wasn't a blowout, but it was never in doubt. You won the game. Then I'm kind of in that like in between state of fine. It was okay. It was good enough, but just build on this. Don't fall backwards. Don't get into the same crap. Like, let's build on this and continue to get better. But ultimately, if we come away from this and say, hey, we're the only NFC East team that did not beat Cleveland, and it's a home game for us off of a bye week when Sirianni's job is on the line, yeah, that tells me everything I need to know about where the squad is, readiness-wise, willing to compete, competitive fire, coaching, all of it. There's zero excuse. Absolutely none. Fitness Warrior, just so you guys know, Singleton, the RB coach, will become the interim head coach if Nick Sirianni gets fired. Why would he become the interim head coach? I mean, it is interesting because we figure out who that would be, but Jorge's saying after this game we trade for Myles Garrett. Be great, sure. John said, be broken TV worthy if we lose the Browns. Yeah, everyone be careful, but be prepared for that. If you're needing a new television, then go ahead and get ready if we do lose, because it'd be a perfect excuse. Just go ahead and end it right there. End it with the current one that you got. Get the newer model. Wait till you get the new coach and just get it with the new coach. Subby woo. Some of these Deshaun Watson comments are great. Oh, I love that. Let's see. Joey Bag of Donuts, what's up, man? How's it going? Let's see. Random Eagles fan. Game marked on my calendar is Bengals versus Eagles. If we don't put up 30 on that pitiful defense, then there's room to worry. Maybe so. I don't get too concerned, and I'm sure that you don't either, but I don't get too concerned about like games down the line, because just like we're saying, hey, can we course correct? They're probably saying the same thing. I mean, they are, but every team is. So I don't want to go too far and go, oh, however a team is today is exactly how it's going to be later. Yes, there's some truths to that, but I would hope that even though some teams probably look at the Eagles right now and go, man, if we don't score 30 points against the Eagles, we're done. Like, we don't have a good enough offense to be like, okay. But like on our side, it's, man, if we can't just limit teams to like 20 points, 24 points, then we've got issues. So I kind of temper it a little bit for games that are in the future. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it's more so for me, like, who's the game this week, right? Because a team is not really going to drastically, at least I believe at this point in the season, a team's not going to drastically change who they are. They shouldn't. And if they do beat you at that point, especially in a situation that we're in, that's the biggest alarming factor to me. So where we look into Cleveland is the Eagles have some issues, yes, but we've gotten healthy, or we are getting healthy, however we want to view that. The offense should be intact, full strength, and now you have a team that is the worst team in the NFL. Like that I don't think there's any arguing that. We see that it's the worst quarterback based on quarterback rating. Worst team in the NFL. I would rather play the Cleveland Browns than I would the Carolina Panthers. I feel like there's a decent amount of people that would agree with that. Thomas and I said the same thing earlier. So to me, it's this week, who are you going up against? Take care of business. Good teams, go ahead and do that. The Commanders, we said this earlier, I think on last week's stream, the Commanders are a good team. They might not be a great team, but they are a good team. They're taking advantage and they're taking care of business with who they should beat. And they're not only just winning. Yes, they lost in week 1, but since then they're winning, and they're also taking care of business, especially recently on a Cleveland team that, you know what? The good teams find a way to put them down early. End it early. Put the dogs out of their misery. The Browns were quitting by halftime, if not before that. What was it, like 24-3 at halftime? Yeah. Terrible. Which they do remind me, and this is maybe the part that I don't love the most, is because it's like it gives me flashbacks to what was, and then I see our offense, and I believe it could turn around. But the freedom that Jaden Daniels is playing with, the Washington offense in general, they're having fun out there, the vibes, the creativity, like all that stuff on offense. I'm like, man, it'd be nice to have a quarter of that, let alone a game. And they've had multiple games. There's a reason that Jaden Daniels is leading the NFL in completion percentage. I think he's 77%, if I'm not mistaken, with 77.1% completion. Next closest guy is Joe Burrow, 72. So the rookie is 5% ahead of second place. It's just an efficient offense. It's a fairly, it's not a super creative, complex one, but it's a good enough one that works for Jaden Daniels, and you see what he does with his legs, the ability to make plays, extend plays. I mean, as long as he's healthy, the Commanders are going to be in it. I'm not ready to say that we're losing the division or that the Commanders are the team that's going to win it, but they are definitely one of those that's going to give a lot of competition. I mean, I think we'd be kidding ourselves at this point, even as early as it is, to say, well, no, the Commanders they're just a team. Not a big deal. No, the Commanders game Thursday night, which, by the way, it is official for people asking. Thursday night football, Commanders game in Philly at the Link. I will be there. Thomas will be there. Shout out to Anthony DeBona also. He will be there. So for anybody who's wanting to show up and hang out, tailgate, whatever, we'll be providing more details before the game. But it would be awesome just to, meet as many people as possible, get together, everything there. But schedule-wise, family, holidays, everything else that goes into play, turns out that that's probably the best one. So we got that locked in, official tickets for the Thursday night football game against the Commanders, which should be a good one. All right, let me get the super chat here. I'll get to some of the other comments as well. 48 Wave, appreciate the 10 bombs. At 86, Nick and Vic, keep Kellen as OC. Get Flores from the Vikes as head coach. Got a bad rap with the Dolphins. He's doing more with less talent and could fix our defensive woes. Kellen plus Jalen, and then in parentheses, Nick equals offensive success. Or minus Nick, excuse me. Minus Nick, yes. Equals offensive success. Really don't hate that, honestly. I mean, we talked about it before. The Eagles prefer the Vic Fangio type of scheme, and there's a reason that they were running it from kind of disciples or guys that use that system, and then ultimately, hey, let's just get Vic Fangio himself. But, I mean, heck yeah, anybody watching just a little bit, you could tell Brian Flores, what he's doing with the Vikings defense is insanity. I mean, you see the different film breakdowns, everything else, like they're lining up, and it's like they're asking, and they did this on some shows. They did this also with like some current players as well, and saying like, hey, what is this lineup? You know, or what are they playing? And so many times they're in cover two, like they're playing, and then it's like, oh wait, no, they're not. They're actually doing man coverage, or vice versa. Like they're seeing things, and then post snap, what the defense is actually doing, and where they're having either safeties play the morphed position of a corner for a play, and vice versa. Like the switch there, and what he's asking the talent to do is insane. But you can clearly tell, I mean, he's got them ready and prepped in those games, and there's a reason that they're having success as the defense, confusing Aaron Rodgers, confusing, every quarterback that they've played up to this point, and there's a reason why they're undefeated. It is, I will say this, Sam Darnold has been good, but the reason that the Vikings are where they are, and I think most people would agree with this, the reason that they are where they are is Brian Flores and that defense. What they are doing and how he's maximizing the talent that they have, it is a drastic difference from a lot of other defenses, and certainly from the Eagles one. Unfortunately, I mean, look, that's just not the style that we play. So we'll see. I'm seeing, some of the people as well as far as the Washington game. Frank saying Washington hasn't played a real team. I'm not sold on that. I don't know, Frank. I mean, the NFL this year is weird. It's a lot of parity. It's strange. Maybe this is wrong to say this. The Chiefs are undefeated, and yet the Chiefs, watching them play, I'm still it's like one of those things like, okay, yeah, well, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs always escape late. And they have, and they do. But I still don't watch those games, and I'm thinking like, okay, Atlanta should have won, right? I mean, they definitely should have been right there. The Kyle Pitts pass interference that wasn't, the magical refs just lose their flag in that scenario. Atlanta should have beaten the Chiefs there. And if Atlanta beats them, well, then, and I know it's not, just by the commonality of wins and losses there, but at the same time, you're like, well, okay, hey, the Bucks, they lost to Atlanta, but the Bucks beat the Commanders, and the Bucks beat the Eagles. So do the Eagles lose to the Commanders? Or like, there's so many ways that you can look at it, but it's hard to say for sure. Okay, is it a good win? Are the Bengals? The Bengals almost beat the Ravens. Now I know they didn't, but come on now. Like, it was in overtime against the Ravens, and are we saying that if the Bengals had beaten the Ravens, because they should have, it was terrible management by Joe Burrow at the end, and maybe it's unjustified as it means. I'm just saying, if the Bengals being that close to beating the Ravens, then do we go, well, hey, the Bengals are a real team. They're legit. Maybe a lackluster defense, but they're a legit team because they beat the Ravens. Because I think that we would all say the Ravens are a legit team. I don't know that we're going in believing like, oh, Lamar Jackson, the way he looks with Derrick Henry, sure, they have holes, but like, I guess a question would be like, what teams don't have holes? What teams, Minnesota, great stop at the end there. They were close. Jets driving at the end. I don't think anyone really thought the Jets were going to win that one, but still, it was within one possession. In fact, if they had scored and kicked a field goal or kicked an extra point, they would have beaten them. It seems like there is a lot of parity around the NFL. And so for that reason, I don't know that we can quite quantify yet and say, look, the Commanders, again, I'm not saying they're a great team yet, but they are a good team. You gotta give them the credit. Yeah, Fanny saying Tampa Bay gave them the business, Commanders lost to them. They did. But they've looked great ever since. And it's the first game of the season, opening game. Again, please understand, I'm not saying I'm not even going out and saying like Commanders are winning the division. I still think the Eagles can do it and will do it. But I'm just saying, I've gotten several comments from people in past videos and in even the recent one that I posted of being like, oh, Commanders are trash. Like, Commanders are going to get beat. They might, but I'm not saying they're trash. Like, I would disagree with you. I would argue against that and say they are a solid team. I mean, you see, it doesn't really matter just about who you're playing. If you show up in a lackluster way, then all of a sudden, you just get absolutely destroyed in the game, which is what happened in the Bucs one. But John, totally understand. Ask the boss. Already went to the Atlanta game and still had PTSD. I don't blame you. That was a rough one. Should have beaten Atlanta, which then therefore beat Atlanta. Should have beat Tampa if we had played, if we had showed up. Frank, yeah, but let's see. Yeah, but what? Commanders have played easy teams that aren't even Super Bowl contenders. Wait till they play Ravens, Cowboys, 49ers, Vikings. It's fair. I mean, yeah. Wait till they play those. I mean, I get that, yeah, their strength of schedule and towards the latter portion is going to be more difficult. I'm curious to see what they do against Dallas. Dallas, to me, is like, I understand throwing them out there in that category. I don't know that I would put Dallas with those other teams. 49ers is strange. Like, they should have beat the Cardinals. They didn't have their kicker because they got injured. So there was at least one, I think there were 2 possessions where they kind of had to go for it or they were in a bind. If they had Moody, they could have kicked a field goal, and then all of a sudden, it extends the lead to a certain point where could the Cardinals have scored 2 touchdowns and gotten the ball back again to try to go down and kick a field goal to win? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, I mean, I hear you with the Ravens, 49ers, Vikings, where they're looking right now, but still, can't take away a win. You can't take away the fact that you're looking at a team that's 4-1 and the completion percentage the way that it is. I think it's still solid. But you're right though. We don't. It's really hard to know because I think a lot of people are going, hey, Buffalo's really good. I think Buffalo's a playoff team. I think a lot of people do. But then Buffalo gets waxed by the Ravens in primetime. Like, what's going on? So we just see instances where a team is looking good, seems to be up to the level, and sometimes, you come out flat. You're not able to keep up to competition. Maybe not ready for some reason. Josh B saying, yeah, NFL been so chaotic this year. It's so far very, very early on. Yeah, I mean, there's a number of instances where I was like, well, I did not expect that to happen. I mean, there's a reason, I guess, why most people's survivor pools are done. And even if you re-upped and did a second survivor pool, you're probably out of that one as well. At least I am. Like, the one group that we've had, it's usually lasted into, like, I think it's usually like the 7th or 8th week, if I'm not mistaken. It's usually it'll last until about then, because there's like 15, 20 guys. And it didn't last. It lasted 3 weeks, I guess, for the first one. No, 2 weeks. Excuse me, 2 weeks for the first one. Started a second one, and then the second one already ended after this past week. So, NFL's bonkers. It's great. Tyler, Dallas low-key owns the Commanders. Yes, they do. However, Dan Quinn, changing of the guard there. And also, speaking of Dan Snyder is no longer there. So the question will be, has the curse been lifted, so to speak, because the one Dan got out and the other Dan is now at the helm of the head coaching job? But I hear you. Yes, until they prove it. Josh B, that's also what it comes down to. Commanders not turning the ball over. 48 Wave, Commanders are legit. Going to be taking all 3 phases to play well or playing well for us to beat them. Yes, and then Fanny, the Giants win was a hoot, though. Blocked field goal was epic. That was crazy. And, did Dexter Lawrence get away with a little bit of a hold so that Isaiah Simmons could jump over and block the field goal? Maybe. It wasn't called, so it wasn't a hold, I guess. And we could look at it that way. Remember, Kansas City's pass interference against the Atlanta Falcons was not called, so therefore it was not a pass interference. Despite what it may have looked like, it was not officially. That's obviously sarcasm. I mean, we know what we saw, but it was still, yes. When the Giants went down the field and I believe it was Gray at the 1-yard line who was trying to score and fumbles, and then the Seattle returns it for a touchdown. I was like, well, okay. I thought the Giants, looked pretty solid to begin, and then I was like, well, there you go. That's it. Same old team. We know what's going to happen. And shout out to Daniel Jones. I mean, dude played well. Dude, without Malik Neighbors, maybe that's the trick. He just does not need Malik Neighbors. If he's got Malik Neighbors out there, I say that kind of half-heartedly or jokingly. Potentially, is it trying to force the ball too much to your rookie star receiver? I don't know. But he's looked really good even over these past couple games. So it's some with Malik Neighbors and then the one without where he looked really good, especially against Seattle. But shout out to Jordan Schultz in the last 4 games for Daniel Jones, 92 for 136, 68 if we're rounding up, 68% completion, 952, 6 TDs, 1 INT, 99.3 passer rating. There he is, good old Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll. Because we're all still believing in them. It's probably fool's gold, right? Nobody's actually buying into that. Random Eagles fan, Survivor pool was over after week 3. There you go. See, it was like week 2 or week 3 for most people. I totally agree with John. Yes, that one too. Nothing like a get-right game when you face the Browns. That's what they're there for. All right, let me get to this one super chat too. Bald Eagle, appreciate the 2. Actually, okay, I see that one twice there, but I appreciate both of those. Saying NFL is so chaotic, it's buying Nick extra time. What, just because it's distractions? I'm curious on the exact take of that. How is it buying Nick extra time? You don't have to, don't feel like you have to super chat again. Like just comment a general comment. But I am curious. Like how exactly is the chaotic nature of the NFL buying Nick extra time? I mean, I could try to see something from that. I'm just curious where exactly you're coming from with that. Let me know. Let's see. Kiefer says, Josh, even if we win this Sunday and look bad against the worst team, wouldn't you get rid of Sirianni? Personally, yes. Do I believe that would happen? No. All he needs is a win. Survive in advance. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They're not going to... Jeffrey Lurie's not going to fire Nick Sirianni after a loss. He would after a loss, I think. But after a win to the Browns. Even if it's ugly and it's like, oh my gosh, this is a team that is just not as focused as it needs to be, not firing all cylinders. You can't be trusted. Like, even with that, if you get a win, I think that it would be like, all right, well, they won. But it probably wouldn't cool off anything in terms of the hot seat, but it would at least prolong the inevitable at that point. Because I think we're all feeling that way. But certainly if you play a game that is very tight to the Cleveland Browns or tight with the Cleveland Browns, and even if you win, then it's like, okay, just go ahead and end this. Like, when you lose to a team that's better, we will know for sure, and then we could just move on. But if it's a win, I highly doubt that they're going to do that. They'll stick with him, give him another chance, hope that you can have a little bit less rust or whatever you want to call it from week 6. But yeah, it's going to take a loss. I really can't see it being a win in any fashion. Maybe I'm crazy. I mean, y'all let me know what you think. How does... do you see legitimately? And I'm asking this like with your head, not your heart, because all of us, I think, or the vast majority would just go ahead and like, yeah, even with a terrible, ugly win, you would still remove him. But legitimately, what would it take? Let's see, Emily with the why would we let Devin White walk? I'm so confused. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that a second ago, but They didn't believe in him. Tested him out, tried to make it work. The reports were, or at least a couple, I think John McMullen had reported saying Devin White was signed as an insurance policy for Nakobe Dean. Once Nakobe won the starting job, it was a wrap. Felt comfortable enough to let him have that. I don't know if a lot of us are there, but that's that's what they did. That's the reasonings for what they did on that side. It's a situation that we're in. I mean, they felt strongly enough about Nakobe Dean. Make the decision. Devin White is not great at special teams. I mean, really hasn't played any. So it's understandable a little bit of saying, like, okay, you got to have guys on the roster, certainly active roster, who can play those multiple positions, who can contribute on special teams if they're not starting. They got him in case there's an injury. And, they looked at the roster here. They're thinking, you got Ainias Smith coming off of the IR. So Ainias Smith will be back. And to make a spot for him, you got Sidney Brown coming off of the PUP, making a spot for him. There were going to already be moves. So, as crazy as it seems, they did the math, and to themselves, they felt like the best decision was, let's just go ahead and let him go. Because apparently they looked to make a trade. That was the initial move. You make a trade, you try to make a trade, see if you can get anything for him. Didn't happen. No team was willing or interested. And so then you just settle and say, all right, well, Nakobe Dean and Zack Baun, you are our linebackers, for better or worse. Even with the 5 missed tackles last week or 2 weeks ago against Tampa, that's who it's going to be. And there's your guy right there, Mr. Nakobe Dean. He's going to have to be better, as are a lot of the guys. It's not just all on him, but he's going to have to be much better, and without even getting to see him play a single snap. That, to me, is the most disappointing part. I would have loved to just see him out there. You know what? It couldn't be much worse. It could, but it couldn't be much worse than 5 missed tackles. Throw him out. Let me see. Let me just see if he's worth a shot. But I guess seeing Devin White day in and day out at practice, they knew enough to think that he was not going to be the answer to that position. That's all I can come to. But nonetheless, saves them a little bit. It's in favor a little bit of the Eagles, in favor a little bit of Devin White. Timing to let him go now based on the compensation that he agreed to, or restructuring that he agreed to kind of alleviate some of the financial concerns for the Eagles, and allows him to, sign with a team as a free agent before the trade deadline. So it gives him some leverage too, but overall, kind of strange. All right, let me get to some of these others here as well. Florida, what are the odds that the Eagles lose the Browns game? I mean, I think we opened up as 8.5-point favorites. So it should be a pretty easy game based on the line there. But, as we've seen way too many times, easy games turn into very difficult ones all of a sudden, and it feels like Groundhog Day all over again. Bald Eagle, appreciate the 5. The follow-up to NFL So Chaotic is buying Nick extra time, saying he's only a game and a half out, and Washington has its toughest stretch late down the line. Eagles have easiest schedule. Eagles playing the long game. Okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, it helps him because you could say, yeah, if they've got a tough stretch, Eagles have an easier schedule, keeps them in the mix, the chaotic nature like you're talking about, so maybe they're able to. But I don't know. I mean, ultimately, to me, it's like, look, I don't even care, and it probably plays a little bit of a factor, but I don't care what they do or don't do against the divisional opponents, right? Like, honestly, I don't think the vast majority of us care. Like, right now, I need to have something fixed and something that I can grasp to say, you know what, maybe this thing is worth keeping Sirianni around. And really only for the fact of going, he stepped back far enough to say, let's not just completely blow this thing up for morale and locker room vibes and everything else, because the players still do speak up for Nick Sirianni, and they've got his back from that standpoint. So that's the only motivation, or the main motivation, for this team to not make that move. So they're giving him a shot. They're giving this team a shot before they just say, you know what, let's either scrap it or let's go ahead and get rid of Sirianni. But, what ramifications does that have for a team? Does that tell the team, like, oh, well, front office and executive leadership is punting on the season, or at least a mini punt of sorts, and say that we're done? I don't know. But ultimately, yes, it just comes down to you got to beat Cleveland. Start out, I know they say it to the ad nauseum point, but like 1-0. 1-0 every week. This offense, for the first time since week 1, is going to have Jalen Hurts, Going to have Saquon Barkley, going to have Devontae Smith, going to have A.J. Brown, going to have Lane Johnson, the full repertoire of weapons, Kellen Moore's offense, and hopefully they changed a couple things in maybe Nick Sirianni bowing out of offensive game planning and play calls and everything else. And if the defense can hold things together, we'll see. All right, let's see. The other one from Annette here, appreciate the 2, says, Josh, Devin White situation is very sketchy. Yeah, to say the least. It's hard to fully grasp it. Devin White is one of those situations that keep an eye on, by the way. Thomas and I were talking about this before when we went live, when it first broke. But we all know Howie Roseman does not have a great track record when it comes to linebackers and linebacker play and contracts and decisions, and TJ Edwards walking and Kaiser White even maybe to the lesser magnitude, but still Kaiser White going. And, this will be interesting. Just monitor on the side. Just bookmark to yourself wherever Devin White goes. Say, okay, I'm going to every once in a while check in. Do that for yourself. And I say that because I don't want to give anybody an ulcer. I don't want anybody to get sick for it. But just keep an eye out. I don't believe that Devin White's going to return to all-pro level. I'm not saying that. I don't even believe he's going to return to Pro Bowl level. But it will be interesting if Devin White goes somewhere else and you're like, wow, okay, he's all of a sudden a starter somewhere. And if he plays at starter level, I'm not saying crazy level, off the charts, but even if it's solid, it's just going to be one more thing where you go, all right, well, something with the linebacker spot, you can't hit on it. I don't know. It is very sketchy. The fact that you did not get to see him play a single snap and see what he might be able to do. If we were sitting here talking about, the Eagles have Andrew Van Ginkel and TJ Edwards as linebackers, or, just some guys, some qualified guys that have a little bit more of a history, something you can hold on to, then it's one thing. But Zack Baun, cool, great, has been a revelation, hopefully keeps up that level of play, hopefully has more consistency and not a little bit of an up and down like we've seen. But that's a very small sample size. And then Nakobe Dean has been much less and had the down, certainly from the missed tackles. I don't know. There's a level of ineptitude, I guess. I don't know exactly how I would phrase it, but from the linebacker spot to where it doesn't feel the best to just go ahead and cut a guy. Yet when they're looking at it in roster moves, I have to assume that they couldn't see elsewhere of a player to cut, a position to make a move, an area to open up for a roster spot so that you can get Sidney Brown eventually in here, you can get Ainias Smith eventually in here, and you still have the opportunity with some other guys that they presumably liked. On top of, yes, they didn't, regardless, they didn't like Devin White's ability enough, or maybe it was locker room, maybe it was the tweet, maybe it was just the vibes, and you said, hey, we're just going to go ahead and move on. I don't know. It's wild. The hype that we had, that the team had, that Howie Roseman had in the press conference talking about Devin White coming over, telling about his story with Howie and the conversation they had, the hope that he had for the team, all that. It's just very, very strange the way that the whole thing went down, and certainly the way that it ended. Bald Eagle, no 2, appreciate that. Said, forget division, it's making playoffs and money. Yeah, it is about the money. Get that. But I don't know that it's not as much of that's a motivation, but it's not as much like I wouldn't want to be in the Dallas situation, right? Like Dallas is just like, hey, let's make the playoffs. Let's just make the playoffs. Mr. All In, except they're not Jerry Jones. Let's make the playoffs, and then nothing else beyond that. It doesn't really matter because we're just they don't have the right guys for one, but they don't really seem to have the capability to lead the team. It's more about money in that instance for the Joneses. I hear you though. There's an element of it with certainly making money, profitability, and everything like that. But it does feel like there's at some point, even if the leash is perhaps a little bit too long, maybe most of us want it to be shortened quicker or go ahead and make a definitive decision. At some point, and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are going to get together and be like, you know what, this is not the right direction. We got to make a move. We got to change things. Now, you, I, and most everyone else would say that we could recognize that from last season, but they wanted to give him one more chance. He's getting it, and it really all comes down to this. It comes down to the Cleveland game for right now. Again, it's not like it'll go away, though, either. He'll help himself if it's a blowout win, if we can just sit back and relax at halftime, early third quarter, and say, oh, man, there you go. Imagine, we have not felt this in 15 weeks. We have not had a game where we've won by 2 scores in 15 weeks or 15 games. It's been way too long. Okay, you'll buy yourself a little bit more time. Better than a close game, better than a, loss is immediately gone, but better than a close game. It still doesn't save the job, though. It earns him one more week. But then you go play the Giants. You go play New York. That's kind of a similar scenario there. If you lose in that situation, especially if you look bad, but really if you lose, then, okay, does he still deserve to have it? Or is it, well, we got to probably reconvene and maybe make the decision then? I don't know. Elbert, appreciate the 5. Said, and horrible how Howie handled the Devin White situation. If we lose one of the next 4 games, Sirianni's gone. By the way, Dean is terrible. I'm in agreement with you, man. I think lots of people of the same sentiment. Yeah, it's like we were saying, doesn't make sense. I don't know if I would fully go on if we lose one of the next 4. If you win 3 in a row and then you lose the 4th one, Sirianni's still staying here. If you lose, if you lose one of the next 2, maybe. It's for sure the Cleveland game, but what I'm trying to grasp is, do the Eagles and would the Eagles look at moving on from Sirianni if they win one game, being the Browns, and then if they were lose to the Giants? I think they would. There's an element there where some people I've seen believe that it wouldn't happen, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's just one of the next, any one of the next 4. Because if you beat Cleveland, you beat New York, you go to Cincinnati, you play the Bengals, and you lose the Bengals, sure, we can make the case and be like, well, they're not that great of a team. They've lost to these other ones, blah, blah. But they played Baltimore really close. We can come back to that. They played Baltimore really close. It's a home game for the Bengals. They will probably be in the similar boat of us of playing for their season, or maybe even more so because of their record. And give him credit, but Joe Burrow is a good quarterback. He's made some, costly decisions late, but he's got a 72% completion percentage, and he's got great weapons in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So, the weapons are there. The ability is there. Does their defense hold up? So it'd be a question of on both sides for the defenses. But I think if you lose to Cincinnati in Cincinnati, it's not good. Sure, we're all going to be wanting that win, and that's going to be one of those where you might look back and be like, man, really? We couldn't pull that one out. But I don't think that's enough. And then, yeah, you have Jacksonville, a home game, Sunday Night Football. That one you should win, especially looking at the Jaguars right now. But I don't know. I wouldn't say any one of the 4 games. But yes, if you lose to Cleveland, probably if you lose to New York. After that, you might be able to get away with losing to either Cincinnati and or Jacksonville. Maybe not both if you're losing 2. But again, if you're saying, oh, hey, we got some mini momentum, right? You got 2 wins in a row, then you could probably get a little bit of a bump in the road. And ownership, again, regardless of what we think, but ownership might say, well, let's prolong this. Let's keep it going, because they can get right back on track. Just a little hiccup, we'll be fine. Bald Eagle with a 5 said, if you already know you're going to fire a guy, why would you fire him when he can nearly guarantee you a playoff run? You can advertise a playoff team. No. I mean, again, I hear what you're saying previously with the financial part of the money aspect of it, but you're firing a guy because he can't guarantee you a playoff run, or can nearly guarantee you a playoff run. Here's the thing is, right now, before the team proves it against Cleveland, even though I'm still optimistic, I'm not sure that Sirianni, with this team, that Sirianni is going to get you a playoff run. And when we say playoff run, just a making the playoffs, which we look at this team, and yeah, there's probably, as we're seeing, some guys that are not living up to expectations and some areas in the defense that Howie maybe should have shored up a little bit more. Still, though, you look at the team on paper, this team is good enough, seeing the state of the NFL, if you had and have the right coaching, you will and would make the playoffs. But the issue is that no one knows that for sure. Like, you're making it under the assumption of, like, would you fire him when he can nearly guarantee you a playoff run? How do we know he can nearly guarantee us a playoff run? I mean, like, at this point, sure, we're a drop pass away from, well, we would beat Atlanta, but also you could argue we're one play away from having been beaten by the Saints in a game that it only took our offense 15 points to win. The defense held it to 12, but it's just this unfundamental, or what's the right word for that? A lack of fundamental play from the team, and just some not great decision making, not putting the offense in the best spots. Jalen, yes, there's injuries, so that there's other things that still have me optimistic that the team can turn it around. I'm just not sure that he's the guy, and that's where everyone's figuring out. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion to be like, oh well, yeah, Sirianni is going to be. He can probably get you to the playoffs. So let's just prolong it because it'll be really close. It'll get, if they didn't feel strongly still at this point of, okay, it can happen, then I don't think they would keep it going, because we would still see them say, you know what, at the end of the day, even if it's a fire him now and have an interim head coach for the rest of the season, you can move in that direction. And we've seen a number of teams do it. So I don't know. I mean, yes, there's a financial aspect of it, but I don't know that there's a legit belief or a legit argument that you could say is like, oh yeah, he's a guarantee to get you a playoff run or to nearly get you a playoff run based on what we've seen the last, what are we talking about now? 13 games, I believe. I mean, 13 games, the Eagles are 3-10. Like if we started a season and we were 3-10 by now, Sirianni would easily be gone. But it's because it's at the back half of one season and the front half of another one that 3-10 is not 3-10, or it doesn't look that way. Because we're like, well, okay, that one season they still made it in the playoffs, so we can't really fire him because he did make the playoffs. We crashed and burned going into the playoffs, but we did make the playoffs. And then we're going into the start of this next season, and it's like, well, but there's some rust, and maybe we give him a little bit of time to get jump started. And yes, there's some injuries, totally understand that, but 3-10 is not being viewed all under one season, because there's nobody here that would rightfully argue if come week 13, 14, whatever it is for us to have played 13 games. If week 13, 14, we're sitting there 3-10, Sirianni's been fired 5 weeks ago. Like, it's just not happening. So, I don't know. I hear some of that argument, but I don't think it's a guarantee or foregone conclusion of where Sirianni and this group's at. Let's see. Oh, what's up? I'm late because I was just going off on a tangent here because, sometimes that happens. But John M., I agree. We can get momentum if we just run the ball. We should be doing that. Anthony DeBona has entered the chat as well. Meanwhile, Devin White has left the chat in terms of the accountability group chat between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. There you go. Yes, John, I appreciate that too. Just making sure that I know that, because sometimes I can lose track of where the chat is. The problem is I've got, you guys obviously can't see it, but I have two chats up, and one allows me to see the super chats, and the other one has the actual chats, but it does not scroll down. So whenever I start talking, it just stays static. And I could move it, but sometimes I get going, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, there we are. Cool Rains, what's up? But yes, Anthony is here saying, unfortunately, writing for PFN tonight, but just wanted to check in. Appreciate that, Anthony. Appreciate you hopping on. And by the way, a little shout out to the rest of the people there, but should most likely have an episode dropping fairly soon with the man himself. So stay tuned for that. You guys that love the longer movie length episodes, Anthony will most likely have some free time. We're trying to work something out there, but been busy on both sides and trying to make something work. So stay tuned for that. That should be fairly soon. As Fanny's saying, hey, Ant-Man, got several parts of that as well. But where was the other one? I think I saw a different comment. What was it? Oh, yes. Anthony's P.S. I totally called the team moving on from Devin White with the wink face. There you go. Congrats to you. Anthony, you've had several good calls. You've also had the Saquon one, which we sometimes bring up. Not always, sometimes. There's a couple other super chats too as well. Bald Eagle, appreciate the 10. Dude, really appreciate that. Sirianni has made the playoffs in what? 66%, 75% of the time. You market your team based off of base playoff appearances. You find a small coach that hopes to find a spark in his career and rinse and repeat with a question mark. I mean, my preference would be like a Ben Johnson. I've said it a number of times, but Ben Johnson would be the guy. It feels like that would be potentially a route, but then there's also this take on Bill Belichick, which I know a lot of people are not in favor of, myself included. But there's some people that are believers in a Bill Belichick for the Eagles, and I understand where people are coming from of the disciplinary, different presence, try to gain control of the locker room, have everybody walk in the line, and all this other stuff. But you still would have a question, and you can go both sides. I get it. Yes, defensively, does it help us out? Sure. But I don't know. Personally, I keep going back to if you spent all of these resources in Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and this offensive line and Jeff Stoutland there with the run game coordination and the O-line and like all the stuff with the offense. Not that defense is not important, but you have so much invested in the offense, and that's the direction you have chosen to go. It's not impossible to slowly back your way out of it, but it's not a 1 year or 2 year deal. Like, in my opinion, you go out and get a head coach who's an offensive-minded game plan guru who then is able to maximize and capitalize on what that's going to be. And then, sure, you go find another defensive coordinator who hopefully is a little bit of a different type of scheme for those that are wanting that, and maybe that's a little bit more of a revolving door. Either way, you're going to be in a position of whether you go an offensive-minded or defensive-minded, or you could go a CEO head coach and say both of those are. But I've gotten tired of the fact that it's like, oh, well, okay, if you're good, your guys are going to get poached unless they're already a head coach. So personally, it would be nice if you had a head coach who was the guru himself. And that's where I would lean towards of go find someone or go get somebody like a Ben Johnson and let's get creative. Let's see if we can make this thing work. And again, we're saying this all under the guise of like the team has lost to Cleveland and or the season has been lost at some point and you're ready to just move on. But right now, they could still turn it around. Kellen Moore with a bye week, maybe Sirianni a little bit more hands off, and Jalen Hurts with a full offense, the complement of options. I don't know. There is a chance. Crazier things have happened, but we have seen a lot of struggles, a lot of frustration. So it's going to take a lot. It for sure will. Let's see. I missed one other super chat. Sorry, let me get to that one, and I'll get to the other comments. Elbert with another 5. Appreciate that. Says, what I'm saying is with expectations so high, going back to the 4, expectations so high, 6-2, we're back on track. Anything less than that, panic mode is still there. Defense has to keep it under 21 points or keep it like at 21. Yeah, I feel you. I mean, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, 6-2. I don't know. I mean, looking at the schedule, it's like 5-3 is not impossible. I do hear you though. Let me see if it'll share good on that screen. I can actually go to the other one if I need to, but let's see. Well, if it's gonna zoom for me, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So if you win, we'll say 3-2 Cleveland, 4-2 New York. Let's just say if you were to lose to Cincinnati, so you're 4-3, 5-3 Jacksonville, and then you play Dallas and you're 5-3. I mean, it's a more concerning situation going into Dallas at 5-3 versus 6-2. I mean, that's obviously given just with the record, but ramifications of the division, games coming up, because it's playing in Dallas, which has not been kind to us in several years. 2017 was the last time we won in Dallas. Washington is a good team, which again, that's the one that we will be at. Anthony himself, 0.0%. That's my cue to get. I just saw that comment, by the way. But we will be at that one. But then, at Los Angeles, which they have not been the same as advertised, but I'm not sure. Will Cooper Kupp by that point and or Puka come back? I don't know. That one I'm unsure about, but they could be more difficult than, early in the season. And then at Baltimore, obviously, that one's a challenging one. And then, home game to Carolina. Hopefully, you just take care of business on that one. Home game to Pittsburgh, which they've been a little more than you thought. They should have beat Dallas. They kind of fell flat in that one, but they should have. And then you got at the Commanders, home game to Dallas, and then New York as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the remainder games after that 4-game stretch, I think legitimately you could, I'm just going to roughly say here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think saying that you're 6 games out of what? 9, go 6-3 on that final stretch. So if you're 5-3, that's what? That's 11 wins, 11 wins, 6 losses. And if you're 6-2, then that's 12. That's 12 wins and 5 losses. So I think ultimately that's what you're looking at. If you can go 3-1, you need to at least over this next 4-game stretch go 3-1, and then we'll be feeling much better. But for sure, I hear you. If you were to go 4-0, then all right, yeah, now we have some serious momentum. We're going into it in the right way. Probably have resolved some of the concerns or issues in a couple different elements. But yeah, get started with that first one. Get it rolling. Simo, appreciate the 2, said we've been through worse. Go Birds, 34-17 Sunday. I mean, that's no lie. We've obviously been through worse. It feels worse being in the present, but there have been difficult times. If we get a 34-17 win on Sunday, I think everyone will be pleasantly happy. I don't know if that's too strong because I know people are like, we just need to obliterate them. It needs to be 40-3, and but like 34-17, you cover the spread. Defense holds them under 20, offense over 30. Hopefully, if I could insert with that, 34-17, Jalen with no turnovers. If we get a 34-17 win with Jalen Hurts and no turnovers, I think we'd be happy about that one. Build some momentum off of that game. And heck, maybe I'm getting too greedy here, but like 4 or 5 sacks. Could we do something like that? Deshaun Watson holding onto the ball a little bit. Maybe get some momentum for some guys like a Bryce Huff who might need it. Could certainly use it if he were to see a sack. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to go to some of these other comments here as well and then wrap up. I'll probably go another 5 or 10 minutes and I gotta jump off. But any last questions, thoughts, anything? And I am getting to some of these comments too, but let's see here. Yes, Josh B., we do have an awful home schedule. Kind of rough that we lost one in Brazil. Random Eagles fan, we should go 5-3. 5-3 is my floor, 6-2 is my ceiling. Well, yes, I mean, technically we can't go better than 6-2, but I agree. 5-3 should be the floor. 6-2 is a 4-0 stretch, so yes. Keith, understand that. Yep. If defense would be good, players who can tackle will be on the field, bringing the best guys or best out of the Bama and Georgia guys. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just my opinion. I understand a lot of thinking. Remo saying the same thing. I'd rather have a defensive coach. Sick of unwatchable D. It's nice. I'm not gonna lie. It is very nice to see defensive play, defensive teams, defensive play. So I feel you. I understand. I still go with offensive-wise. Anthony, I'm rolling back up here, so I'm late to some of these comments. But yeah, see, Anthony's Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, or Joe Brady, top 3 candidates. Next head coach needs to be offensive play caller. There you go. Let's see, 805 says no Belichick, but Vrabel, perfect fit. See, there's a couple of those. Let's see. Pacino Alex, any news on why we released Devin? Not anything other than there's not super in-depth info, but basically they didn't feel like there was a fit for him. Thought it was more of a in case we had injuries. And since, hadn't had anything yet, and the roster moves that you have with Ainias Smith and Sidney Brown, go ahead and make that move. So they decided to, but yeah, a little bit strange. They do it now though, again, because it saves some money. He signed a deal, or restructured, I should say, a deal that helps out the Eagles. So helps him because he gets on the market early, but then not as much of a financial ramification. So Joey Bag of Donuts, we're 2-2. I don't want to fire Nick. It's a long season. Again, the NFC is wide open. I mean, I agree with you because I think that for the Eagles to fire Sirianni, then it's probably too late for the season. Not that it's impossible to turn it around, but I think that the Eagles organization is going to be probably at the point where they're like, nah, this is not it. And I think that it's really early, but if we lose to Cleveland, I do think that Sirianni would get fired. But then I also would wonder, I don't know. I know it's very early, but can you totally turn it around? Because it's like, man, either he is completely throwing off the vibes, or we got some serious issues with just players and personnel. We got bigger issues than what we might expect. So, yeah, I mean, it's the earlier you do it, if it's a legit full blown Sirianni is the main issue, then yeah, there's a long enough season where you might be able to regain the morale, have the players rally together, get something happening. But still, it's I don't know. It does feel like organizationally they're going to be once they know officially, yeah, this is not going to work. Let's just move on. Let's try again. Then they're moving from him. But I don't know. If it's within a week, then sure, you're what? You're sitting there at 2-3. Not the end of the world, but it would feel like that. Simo with another 2 says, Coop and Nickel split with Rodgers, bench Avante. I'm perfectly fine with that. Coop and the nickel, get Isaiah Rodgers out there, have him play a little bit more. Avante Maddox, bench him. You drafted your rookies for a reason, so I think so. Let's see. Cheesesteak question to those who want to keep Sirianni. What does the team actually lose with not having him around? He's not even getting his core values taken care of. That's also a very good question, yes. That's very, very true. Let's see. I'll do a couple more here. Remo, big Devin White supporter, wanted to play but was out as soon as he posted the Jalen pick. Yeah, whenever who was it? Levante David? Yeah, the sack for Jalen and all that. That was one of those where you're like, okay, come on. Cooper to John week. Yeah, Mike DiMatteo. Yep. Feels like that. Talk 215. What are your thoughts on the Eagles keeping Bradbury, Maddox, and Huff over White? They feel like secondary-wise, there's something that's going to be valuable enough to have some of those guys. I don't know. Maybe it's last year and having injuries go down and Howie Roseman be like, no, we're gonna need some of these guys. Let's hang on to them just in case. I would assume Fangio's had some input, so he's also like, nope, I can't use him as much as I can these other guys. It doesn't make complete sense, but it's the direction that they're going. Cheesesteak, yes. Timing of Devin release due to Sidney Brown coming back. That for sure plays a part because you need to make roster space. We were talking about that earlier. Ainias Smith needed to make roster spot for him. Sidney Brown. So there's an element in there for it as well. And they probably saw the extra part to, hey, we can restructure and gain back some compensation from Devin White that he agrees to give up some of that so that he can get on the market earlier and, find a spot or pick his spot for where he's going to sign. Frank from Philly, Hurricane Howie. It's just starting. You haven't seen nothing yet. Wait till it turns to Category 5. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have all the wheels turning. He's going to be trying to do as much as possible. So, whatever that ends up turning into. I mean, I know I've seen all the rumors and speculation like Max Crosby and all these others. It's only going to heat up as we get to trade deadline, which is November 5th. I'm not buying into anything yet. There's rumors and speculation galore. I would wait until it's like multiple reports, multiple rumors, or at least much closer to the trade deadline, because I don't think if you are going to have a big move, it's going to be now. I think it's hey, we had the bye week, we're regrouping, and we're going to see what this group does for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then you see, okay, maybe here's a move. Maybe here's something that Howie tries to go out and make done or get done for the roster. I don't know. We'll see. By the way, though, speaking of hurricane, seriously, prayers and thoughts to those in the, I think it's Hurricane Milton, but in the way Tampa and Florida. I don't believe, I think it was like a category 4, then it got to a 5, and I think it's supposed to maybe drop a little bit like category 4, but definitely thoughts and prayers for everybody in that area. I know lots of people impacted previously for Hurricane Helene, and then now there's, I think it's Hurricane Milton, but yeah, definitely thoughts and prayers there. Just stay safe, everybody. Nothing more important than that. Harry, what's good? How's it going? Appreciate you hanging out. Just about to hop off here, actually, but you're here. You joined. Let's see. Got a 2 from James. Oh, here we go. Thoughts on bringing in Solid to help Vic? I highly doubt they would do it. If it was a different defensive coordinator, I would say sure. I really don't see Vic Fangio having any need or want or anything to be like, oh, yeah, let me get another voice in my ear. Like, Vic's seen it and done it, been there, done it, has the experience. So I'm out on it. If it was a different defensive coordinator, I do believe that, Salah's a good defensive-minded coach, defensive coordinator. Probably not a good head coach from what we've seen, record-wise, locker room-wise, where the Jets went or did not go. But ultimately, when it comes to defensive coordinator, yeah, I think that he'll get a gig back. I did say before, probably San Francisco. That would be my guess, that you'll see him there next season. But for just, we've already got too much micromanaging. And not that it's at the same level, sure, because consultant-wise, there's a lot of times, you're just providing info to someone and you're not actually there. But I feel like it would go in that direction. Of just not another voice in the ear, not another too many cooks in the kitchen as it is. So probably not. Johnny, leave it to the Jets to do Jet things. Makes no sense to fire him this early. Yeah, there you go. Kenny, I'm almost ready to let Christian Parker take over. There you go. That's a little bit quick. Elbert with a 2. What 4 players get cut to make room? That's a good question. Which 4 players? Yeah, we'll take a look at this real quick, and then this will probably be the one that'll wrap it up. Let's look at the roster. So they've got Devin White that was released, and then probably, tight end wise, you're thinking. Grant Calcaterra, he has not looked good at all. You could potentially see that. Is there another? You already cut one linebacker. You're probably not going to do another one, but we haven't seen much of those. Thomas Booker barely made it. I wouldn't want to do that. I'm just thinking of guys who made it at the very tail end of roster cuts. Let's see, who else is that? I'd say Grant's got to be in danger of a potential. Tristan McCollum, probably a potential cut there. And we're talking about a safety, and especially if you're going to move in Sidney Brown, they might look at doing that. Again, that's really a name I probably wouldn't, if you could keep him somehow and figure out that one, that might be the direction that I would look to go there. Yeah, you got. Let's see. There's I guess I could screen share that one too. That'd probably help. Jack Stoll, but still, I would go to Grant Calcaterra first. Eli Ricks, I mean, he's probably on the outside looking in. Again, he was one of those that was the last minute barely making it. So, yeah, those would be a couple of the guys that I would think about. Paris Campbell wouldn't have to get cut. I mean, he's practice squad, so you'd either have to do like elevation wise. He would have to be signed basically because on the active roster going into the last game, it was Johnny Wilson and Jahan Dotson as the only active roster players. So, but Paris Campbell's already used all of his elevations, I believe. I think he's used all three. So it's either sign him or he's done. Like he can't be elevated. Yes, Mike DiMatteo, good point. Jalix Hunt season starts soon. Hopefully so. Hopefully we can see him more. If the D-line is getting not getting pressure, we might as well put him out there. Get some more players at that point, or some different guys just to try things up. See if you can get pressure. Michael's going Bradbury, and Bradbury. I don't mind that either. Yeah. All right. Vic, you're right. I saw that too, yes. Should have signed McKinney. Xavier McKinney is crushing it. That would have been a huge one. Okay, I'm making sure. I think I saw one more. Oh, Jack O'Meara says, Josh, just wanted to say hi, let you know I appreciate the videos. Have a great week. Thank you, Jack. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Had a blast, as always. I'm going to jump off here, help the wife and kids for bedtime and everything else, but you guys are the best. You know that. Make sure the like button. Subscribe as always. That is the Saquon Barkley helmet back there. Signed Saquon Barkley Kelly Green helmet. So that will be the next helmet that we give away eventually. But, we're on the road to 100,000 subs and a very special giveaway at that point as well. But, yeah. And then there's also the jersey giveaway that'll happen on the Friday night live stream. So make sure to tune in for that. Probably... I'm guessing sometime around like 8 p.m. Eastern, probably sometime around then is whenever we'll go live. And then, maybe 30, 45 minutes after that is whenever we'll spin for it. But good luck all, and hope everybody has a fantastic night. Stay safe out there. And, till next time, y'all know what it is. Go Birds.